You're listening to the Lone Star Gridiron Sports Network.
The Elgin Wildcats weekly press conference is made possible by ServePro. With more than 50 years of experience, ServePro has earned the reputation as #1 in the cleanup and restoration industry and specializes in fire and water damage, specialty cleaning, mold, and so much more. The show is also brought to you by Bluebonnet Electric Co-op. When you belong to an electric cooperative, you're not a customer, you are a member and an owner.
Welcome to the Elgin Wildcats press conference with head coach Heath Clawson. I'm your host, Tony Blalock. We'd like to thank ServePro of Taylor and Elgin and Bluebonnet Electric Cooperative for sponsoring today's show. How you doing, Coach?
I'm doing fine, Tony. How are you?
I am doing okay. So, may really not want to, but let's talk about this week's game against Brian Rudder. Just kind of walk me through how the game went.
We started off. We had a play designed for those guys, and we had a guy wide open for what would have been a long touchdown, and we missed a block and got hit in the back, fumbled the ball. They recovered it, so they had the ball on the 25-yard line instead of us scoring a long touchdown. And they punch it in, and we're down 7-0 instead of being up 7-0. And most of the night went the same way. So it was not our best night. It was one of those Murphy's Law. If it could go wrong, it did. The ball go off our hands and into the defender's hands. That happened twice. It was just a weird night, and we've just got to pull back together and get ready for this week.
All right. Now, last week we talked about Rudder being a very aggressive team and preparing for that aggression. Did their aggression play a role in the way the game played out?
It did, because we didn't execute very well a lot of times. And what was interesting was it wasn't like a bunch of guys. It seemed like nearly every play, one person made a mistake, whether it was with a block or a read or something. And same thing on defense. Somebody didn't cover right, didn't read right, or feel right or something. And one or maybe two people made a mistake, and for whatever reason, it was one of those nights where they exploited our mistakes. And it wasn't like it was a blowout early on. They took advantage and made us pay for some mistakes. And when they did, they typically scored off of it. And we didn't get off the field on third down, and we turned the ball over on offense. And those two things end up usually it's not the outcome you want. So they did. I got to tip my hat to them on when we made mistakes. Their aggression definitely made us pay for it.
All right. So let's talk about our players of the game. Who's your offensive player of the game?
Well, we didn't put a lot of points on the board. We did move the ball, a few times, but just only found the end zone once. And so, probably our right tackle, Hunter Gibson, was probably our offensive player of the game. He's a senior captain who's starting for the third year, and he's definitely showing why he is that captain, and why he's been a starter since midway through his sophomore year, because he played pretty well.
Yeah, defensive player of the game?
Defensive player of the game was probably Dennis Levine. I think he had double-digit tackles. He had a few for a loss. He really did a real good job of he's got a great motor, and he plays every snap like it's his last. And, it allowed him to make a lot of plays the other night, even when maybe some other guys weren't having their best games.
All right, and your special teams player of the game?
It's always easy to give to the kicker, but, one guy who just played hard all night, was great on defense, but did some things on special teams, ended up blocking a kick and making some tackles. That was Jackson Clouded to him.
Okay. We'd like to thank ServePro of Taylor and Elgin for their sponsorship of the Elgin Wildcats press conference. Water damage, fire damage, storm damage, document restoration, general and specialty cleaning, roof tarping, graffiti removal, vandalism restoration, air duct HVAC cleaning, and much more. If you need any of these services, give ServePro of Taylor and Elgin a call, 512-846-7890, available 24/7. So this week's opponent is Bastrop Cedar Creek. What can we expect to see from Cedar Creek on offense?
Well, they mix it up a little bit. They'll do a lot of spread stuff. They'll also go under center every now and then. They run the ball pretty well, but they've definitely improved throwing the ball, and so that's something that I think has helped them put some more points on the board this year. So our defense is going to have to play good to keep them from getting on a roll, because when a team's improving, they get some confidence. That can definitely get them on a roll. So we're going to have to play good defense to keep them out of the end zone.
What can we expect to see from Cedar Creek defensively?
On defense, they're pretty base 4-2-5. They're going to give us too high a lot, safety, too high safeties, and they're aggressive. They're gonna try to get after us. When it comes to secondary and all that. But they've got a couple of really good defensive players up on the line, and their linebackers are going to try to come fit on the run. So we're going to have to do a good job blocking to score points on them this Friday night.
Yeah. So you had some problems with execution last week, and like you said, it was just a different player every play. So how do you approach this? Do you really work on improving those things, or do you just kind of reset and say, let's move forward?
Well, mentally, we kind of say we're going to reset and leave that behind us and move on, because the nice thing was that when we watched film, it wasn't like we were just getting beat all over the field. It wasn't like we were losing a lot of one-on-one battles. They didn't just beat up on us. We just kind of beat ourselves. And so mentally, we need to move on. That hasn't been how we played for the last year and a half. The only time in the last year and a half the way we played, when we played like that, was against LBJ last year in the playoffs, and we did it again last night. In the game of football, you saw the Giants and the Cowboys game. The Giants are definitely not going to lose to the Cowboys or anybody else 33-0, probably the rest of the season, or 40-0, whatever it ended up being. They're not that bad, but that night, it was, they got a kick blocked in return for a touchdown, and turnovers and stuff. Just a weird night, and that's what was for us. So mentally, we've got to put that behind us and move on. So we the physical side of it, we decided that we wanted to help up front, especially with our center and our right guard, who are first time varsity offensive linemen, and so we simplified some of the things we were doing in practice to give them extra reps, one right after the other, running the same play. Excuse me. Compared to the way we've been practicing, we're mixing it up a lot, and so I think those extra reps, one right after the other, is going to help them.
All right. We'd like to thank ServePro of Taylor and Elgin and Bluebonnet Electric Cooperative for sponsoring today's show. Be sure to tune back in next week, where we'll talk about how the Cedar Creek game went. Thank you for your time today, Coach, and see you next week.
Sounds good, Tony. Appreciate it. Have a good week.
Did you play Texas high school football? If you did, you're part of an elite group, the Brotherhood of Texas High School Football. All football players, past and present, who have ever suited up in the Lone Star State are eligible. Go to LoneStarGridiron.com/brotherhood. And thank you for the part you played in the greatest sport in the greatest state.
LoneStarGridiron.com. Access the complete history of Texas high school football, over 100 years of information, win-loss records, coaching histories, individual stats, records, and more. Lone Star Gridiron, the authority on Texas high school football.